Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about do-it-yourself electroculture gardening. We're going to make a copper tree of life with crystals and copper wire. Step one, you're going to cut and twist the copper wires. Now you're going to want to use bare copper wires. You don't want the copper wires to have any kind of coating on it. If the manufacturer says they're tarnish proof, you don't want to use those. You want to use bare copper wires. Now I use 12 or 14 gauge copper wire for cut 36 inches long for the main part of your item, and you want to make a coil at the top, a hoop. So that's where you're going to put your the basic tree branches and stuff. You're going to use 18 gauge and 22 gauge cut pieces for your all your branches. Now I'm going to twist these all together. I can use pliers or just twist them by hand, but I like to use pliers. It's easier. I'm going to just twist a bunch so that they're nice and smooth and make a nice little group. So this is going to be your base of your tree. Now I'm going to separate out the wires so we have one 22 gauge and two of the 18 gauge together in a group. So as you can see, some of the wires are a little bit longer than others, and you're going to end up trimming them and cutting them as you go when you're done, but this is just what I start out with. Now because trees, the branches come out at different heights. They don't all come out at the same spot. I want these branches to be a little bit different from each other. So I'm going to take three, one 22 and two 18s. I got to twist them together. So there's one branch. And then I'm going to find three more wires and do another branch. Now my circle, my hoop, is a 2-inch diameter hoop. So obviously if you have a bigger hoop, you might want to use more wires so that your tree still has visually, it's still a good basic tree in the middle of your hoop. And likewise, if you want to make a smaller hoop, you might want to use less wires. Now the reason I use these particular diameter wires, gauge wires, is because anything thicker than the 18 gauge will, the 22 gauge will not, my little crystals, the hole in the crystals won't go through anything that's any bigger. And I didn't want to use like something like a 26 gauge or something really thin, because I wanted to have some strength and control. So that's why I went with the 22 gauge. So as you can see, I've grouped together some of the wires into different branches. And I'm going to add more wire and fold more wire in as I go to beef up some of these branches, but this is the basic branches. Now I'm feathering out the wires at the bottom because those are the ones that are going to wrap around my hoop to make my to hold on to the hoop. So I'm going to keep on wrapping around and wrapping around the tree to give the tree some strength, because I wanted the base to be a little bit thicker. So I used some of the wires that I had and kind of like wrap them around the tree base itself to make it look a little bit more robust. And you might want to use different pliers. Like I have some of those round needle nose pliers, and then I have some flat pliers. So you might want to use different types of pliers to help crimp the wires. Although, these aren't really that thick. the 22 gauge and the 18 gauge wires are pretty pliable, so you don't really need to use tweezers all the time. Anyways, step 2 is to twist the small wires around the hoop. So we started, I had a little picture of me holding the hoop with the tree so I could tell how big the branches are and stuff, but now we're going to actually attach it to the hoop. So I'm putting my tree on my hoop, and now I'm going to use the wires of the actual tree itself to hold the tree trunk, to hold the wires to the hoop. Now, this whole project doesn't have any soldering. This is all wrapping of copper wire. So if you wanted to, you could solder here and there to hold them in place. But basically, I'm not soldering at all. So I'm just using my pliers and my hands and wrapping these copper wires around to hold it together. And some of the wires for the trunk down there, some of those I did end up cutting off because I didn't need them quite that long. But it's good to have your wires a little longer than you need, because you don't want them a little shorter than you need, because then they were kind of like stuck. You can't like stretch them longer. So that's why I like to have them a little bit longer than maybe I wanted at the end. Now I'm separating out some of the branches, and I'm just winding them around the hoop also. As you can see, that's one of the thinner wires, the 22 gauge, and that's the other 22 gauge, and actually that's the 18 gauge. So and then I'm putting those together in a group because that's what I decided I wanted for this. I wanted to end up having all these branches kind of spread out. I'm going to now, step 3, I'm going to use pliers or a coil winding jig to form the basic coil. So this is the bottom of your electroculture gardening unit. You're going to want to either use one of these plastic coil formers that you can buy online, or you can just use your hands and pliers and make that shape. But I'm kind of using both. I kind of formed it myself by just bending the wire, and now I'm using the form to help create the smooth look of the coil. Now this particular base, I got 12 gauge. That's hard, and it's not the soft copper wire. It's the stuff that's a little bit more strong, but even the soft wire will be strong enough for your project. And you can, after at the bottom of it, after that coily thing, you can even then wrap your wire, your 14 gauge or 12 gauge wire around a wooden dowel. You've probably seen lots of pictures of that. So that's another thing. If your wire, when you're all done and you're holding your item in the air, if it's not strong enough to support itself, you can wrap the base of it with a wooden dowel. Step 4, coil all 18 gauge wires. So I have all those, 1 out of every 3 of the branches was 18 gauge. And just to make it fun, I am now going to coil all the 18 gauges around my needle nose pliers. And it's just kind of fun to have that coily look like I showed in my other electroculture gardening video. So this just adds a little bit of fun. These little coils can also soak up the sun rays and help transmit any goodness to your garden. So You can use pliers like this to do this. Sometimes I've also used a nail setter, which is at that that cone shaped metal shape that you can use that to wrap around. You could also not even use a metal form. You could just do it by hand and coil it around. It's just that this is an easy way to get that coily look that I am after right now. So I'm just coiling this around. I'm kind of using pliers sometimes at the end to make it all continue with the coil like I like. So I have 6 of these to do, and I've done all of these. I kind of like make them stand out straight out from the tree because that's kind of fun looking. You can stretch the coils out if you want to. And then I have all these thin wires, the 22 gauge ones, and with them I'm going to use my crystals to act as little details and highlights. Now you can use different size crystals, but step 5 is attach the glass teardrops. These are 6 millimeters by 12 millimeter beads, and these are actually AB beads, which stands for that Aurora Borealis coating that's on them that makes them a little bit different colored. You don't have to do that. There's all different colored crystals that are out there. You can even use clear, but definitely I would get glass ones. I would not do plastic. I think the glass is going to work better in this because it'll help with the whole connecting energy from the sun will work better with glass than plastic. And I think the plastic would, over time, deteriorate as far as it would lose its shine and glitter. So I would just stick with glass. Now I'm making like little loops, as you can see, so I can attach these. Remember, I'm not using any solder for this project, so I need to attach these pretty securely because they're not going to have the benefit of solder. So I am just winding these around with my pliers and kind of like a little loop going around and around and around, and that will hold them securely. You know, I'm usually going around 2 or 3 times so that I get a nice secure hold. If you're having trouble getting your crystal on, straighten your wire a little bit more. It's a little easier if they're really bent like this one was. It's just a little bit harder to get the crystal to cooperate and continue so that you can have the curvy look that you want on the end. So, okay, now I got it nice and smooth, and I am wrapping it around. Now I'm making the crystal branches all kind of the same length, but not exactly. I didn't want them all to be like uniformly, but you could if you wanted to. You could make them all kind of a perfect radius out from the center if you wanted to. But I'm just having them willy-nilly here and there, kind of a variety, so they look more natural. So that's really up to you. And as you'll notice, so they'll end up being 12 of these crystal things when I'm done, and 6 of the coily guys. So as you can see, I'm using big tweezers and little ones to pinch them all together and make them all what I want. And when you buy these crystals, like this bag of crystals, I think came like 200 or something like that in a bag. I mean, so I have lots of these crystals to put on many different projects. But you can get smaller amounts if you want to. You can even get colored crystals. I did entertain the idea of using green teardrops on this, so it's kind of like tree leaves. But then I decided that the clear ones would probably absorb sun rays better than a colored glass. But hey, I don't know exactly if one would do better than the other, but this is what I ended up doing. And you can see my branches are kind of uneven, as you can see. They're not, the coils on the branches themselves are kind of organic and loosely designed. So I didn't want it to be really mechanically perfect, like all the branches are coiled, you know, the twists are all perfect, perfect, perfect. I wanted them to have some variation on them because this is nature and a tree, and things are not perfectly symmetrical out there in nature. There is some variation in things. So I'm attaching all these. And that wire was a little long, so I just cut off the extra wire. So that's fine if you have them a little bit long. You don't want to start off with them tons long because then they're just going to get in the way. But having them a little longer than you need, that's a fine thing. Okay, so now I'm all finished. And you need to place it by a plant. And this can be inside or outside and have fun. So this is what it looked like when it was done. Very organic and earthy looking. And I'm zooming in so you can see the details of the twists and everything. So it's a fun, simple project. It's not going to take you forever to do. And it's pretty, and you can put it outside in your garden, or as I said, you can put it inside and just have fun with it. And thanks for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.